Good morning, Chasco Cubs. Today we have a very special day. It's Veterans Day. And here we are to pay a tribute to all of our veterans here that are family of Chasco Elementary School. Please stand first so we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may now be seated. When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner almost 200 years ago, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true today as they were then. Throughout this nation's history, America's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to more than 650,000 American service members who died in battle or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank 25 million veterans still living today. These words are inscribed on the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met. Those words apply equally to many of our World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and Gulf War veterans as well. They apply to today's active duty service members, today's veterans who are helping to maintain peace throughout the world. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay it. Today, we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. So boys and girls, today I want you to recognize the faces of those people in our Chasco family that have served and fought for our freedom. I'm first going to start with Miss Daniel, our third grade teacher. Her husband, Quentin Daniel, is in the Coast Guard. He's been in the Coast Guard for 8 years. He's been stationed here at Fort Pierce, Florida, San Diego, California, Clearwater, Florida. He remembers the most Hurricane Dorian and the search and rescue in the Bahamas. To Mr. Daniel, freedom means having the right to be yourself, the right to speak and believe as you choose. Thank you, Miss Daniel. Thank your husband for his service. Next, we have Mr. Conrad. You all recognize Miss Conrad. So her husband, Jim Conrad, served in the U.S. Coast Guard for 21 years. He provided support in the continental U.S. during the Vietnam era and the Gulf War conflict. He was stationed in many places: New Jersey, Maryland, California, Washington, D.C., Ohio, Miami, Florida, Michigan. Michigan and Florida twice. He remembers the most finding unsafe and overloaded boats with many, many men, women, and children in the open Caribbean Sea and returning them to their homes. What does freedom mean to Mr. Conrad? Freedom provides the opportunity to mark your own choices only if and follows all the rules and regulations. Thank you for your service, Mr. Conrad.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Miss Clark, our fifth grade teacher. Miss Clark has served in the U.S. Army for 4 years. She served in the Gulf War, Desert Storm, and was also stationed in Germany. Freedom means to Miss Clark to have the opportunity to make our own choices and have a voice in our government. So when you see Miss Clark, please say thank you for your service. Thank you, Miss Clark. Mr. J. Mr. J has been a volunteer here before I came to Chasco. So when you see Mr. J, he served in the U.S. Navy for 3.5 years. He was stationed in Europe. He remembers the young men and women that sacrificed a lot for our country. And freedom is everything to Mr. J. It means education, practicing the religion of your choice, and just remembering that this country is so great. Thank you for your service, Mr. J. And Miss Fountain. So Miss Fountain is one of our kindergarten teachers, and her husband is also a veteran from the U.S. Air Force. So Mr. Fountain served for 24 years in the U.S. Air Force. He fought in the Korean War. He was stationed in San Antonio, Texas, Wyoming, Virginia, North Carolina, Japan, Alaska Air Force Base. And he remembers the most all the comrades that he worked with and the experience they shared together. His best assignment was in Alaska and lived there for 17 years. What does freedom mean to Mr. Fountain? It means to have a democratic way of life. I know those are things that you're learning in your classroom each day. Thank you, Ms. Fountain, for representing your husband today, and thank you for his service. And last but not least, we have Ms. Chopek. Ms. Chopek's husband, Mr. Chopek, served in the Coast Guard. He's still currently serving in the Coast Guard, and he's been in the Coast Guard for 18 years. They've been stationed in Georgia, Clearwater, Kodiak, Alaska, and Jacksonville, Florida. He remembers the most the search and rescue and law enforcement. Freedom is living without worry, being grateful for everything. We're blessed and living free because of the sacrifices paid by our forefathers. Thank you, Ms. Chopek, and thank you, Ms. Chopek, for representing him today. We have another member of our Chasco family, Mr. Bruce, that has proudly served in the U.S. Army, and he was in 2nd and the 19th Infantry and the 24th Division, and he served in Fort Stewart, Georgia, from 1975 to 1981. He served active and inactive for 6 years, and freedom to Mr. Bruce means to pursue your dreams without government interference. So boys and girls, when you see Mr. Bruce on campus today, please say thank you for your service. Thank you so much for your service. So boys and girls, on Veterans Day, these are the faces around you that are not far away. They are still here, and they're still here representing our country, and they're still out there fighting for our freedom. So I want you to think about that today, and please remember that today is a day to be grateful and thankful for all that have served for our freedom and for this country. Happy Veterans Day. We wish you a great day today. Happy Monday, and we will see you around campus.
Veterans Day is a very important holiday in our country, for it honors all those living and dead who served in the U.S. Armed Forces in its times of war.
Woodrow Wilson proclaimed the first Veterans Day on November 11, 1919. It was originally called Armistice Day.
November 11th, we honor the brave men and women who have fought for freedom around the world.
Hello, boys and girls of Chasco Elementary. We are presenting a flag to your principal, Mrs. Boylan, to Assistant Principal, Mrs. Jaworski, and to all the teachers and staff and members of this great school, and to you boys and girls. On behalf of Miss Virginia Brotherton, she put in 31 years in the military. In the Second World War at the beginning, she put several years in the U.S. Army Air Corps, later changed to the Army. She attained the rank of Staff Sergeant. After that was over for her, she came back to Michigan to perform her job. Then they were being asked to enter the service again. So a friend of hers and her, they didn't go into the Army this time, they went into the United States Navy, where she attained a non-commissioned position as Chief Petty Officer. She put in 31 years in the military. She died 2 months before her 98th birthday. She outlived everyone in her family. And when she passed away, we took her remains up to Michigan, where she was buried in a family plot with military honors. And along with this military honors, the flag is usually presented by an Army official, a Navy official, what have you. We had a United States Navy commander present this flag to my wife, Louise, Mrs. J, because she was the closest living relative that Virginia had. And on this special occasion, I will have my wife, Louise, Mrs. J, present the flag to you people here in Chasco Elementary, where it may be flown above the school with pride. And when you take a look at that, remember all the sacrifices that people made for this great country.
This is for you and the school.
Thank you. This means a lot to us. Thank you so much. So boys and girls, when you see this flying above our school, always remember these people that are here every day helping to serve and fight for our freedom. This is so special to us, so thank you for choosing our school.
It's special to us because she loved children. Even though she was never married, she loved children. Very generous woman, and she was just great. And this was her
Thank you.
next of kin, really.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone in our country, including the president, observes this day. The president leads the ceremonies by placing a wreath at the top of Unknowns of Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C.
November is the month to be thankful. When you are remembering all of the things that you have to be thankful for, veterans should be at the top of the list.
Right, because they have always kept us safe in the past and are still keeping us safe right now.
Throughout our history, many people have died fighting for our freedom. Because of their sacrifice, we enjoy a free, peaceful country.
We need to develop the same love for our country that the veterans have shown. Always remember, no matter where you go, America is always your home.
I'm grateful for our country. I'm grateful for all the people who are in the armed forces right now. I'm grateful for all those who died protecting our country.
I'm grateful that we live in a peaceful country.
I'm grateful for freedom.
Thank you, veterans, for all that you've done.